Hello guys, you're welcome to another brand new tutorial, and today we'll talk about CSS Flex, and it's a better way of doing responsive designs. Now on our code editor here, as you guys can see, we have an empty repository where I will create the index.html file, and also will create the styles.css. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do so by clicking the subscribe button and turning on the notification bell to get notified whenever we drop a new video, because we are moving to becoming developers, and this is a great channel to learn everything you want to be to become a developer. Not everything, but most often everything that you will need. I think I will share that. Alright guys, so in our index.html file, we just want to create a simple HTML file with children elements, a div with child elements. So we should just kind of create something simple, and then we have this, and then here let's link our style sheet to be linked, of which we are linking the CSS, and then it's the styles.css. Now here we just want to create a .container, for instance, and then we want to create a .child, right? And then the .child, we just want to create about 6 of them, so we just say multiplied by 6, and then we'll have 6 div elements. So in our script file over here, we want to create or just style it up. So the first thing we want to do is to just remove the external margin that comes by default. So if we say margin should be 0, and also the padding 0, so the padding also should be 0. Yeah, we are good to go. And now the next thing we want to do is to call the container over here. So it's the container, and then now the container here, we just want to give it a width of 100%, and then we want to give it a height of 100 VH, so 100 view height. And then this property we wanted to give is the flex property, but before we give the flex property, let's just target the .child, for instance, .child, and in the .child we want to give it a width of about 200 pixels each, and a height of about 200 pixels also. Yeah. And also we'll give them a background color, we'll give them a background color of, let me say, blue. So if we say background color should be blue, for instance, and we save. So if we want to load this file or run with Livesaver, I think this guy is taking so much time. He's still looking for the port to run to. And yeah, okay, we have something like this. Okay, so you see the way it is stacked. So understanding the flex properties is one of the greater things of which you should get to know in responsive designs. For instance, if we just want to give them a margin such that we separate each and every of these child elements, for instance, if we say margin of 10 pixels each, so you see it is separated from each other, and now we can visualize each element individually. Now if also we want to reduce the sizes, maybe we can drop it down from 200 pixels to about 100 pixels each. Depending on you, you can choose whatever thing you want, but in this tutorial I just want you guys to understand how the flex property works. Now the flex property is always given to the parent element, and the parent element in this case over here is the container. So if you go over to the HTML, you see this guy here is a parent with this child element. So the container is a parent element to the child element. So if you come back to the CSS here and you kind of give this guy here a display property of flex, for instance, if we say he should have a display flex, now we have something. All right, seem as if I didn't target the container well, so let me just do it this way. Okay, I'm still missing something. Okay, container. Okay, so given the display property flex, now you see what happened to these elements. So what you're seeing is that instead of being stacked the other way, they kind of shrink themselves down and then they are displayed on a row. So that is display. Now the first thing you guys have to understand when we talk about display properties is its flex direction. So you are flexing them or displaying them by flex. You have to choose a specific direction to which your properties can display. For instance, there are many types of directions. If I come here and I just say flex stroke direction, for instance, this is the property here. So you see we have the property column, we have column reverse, meaning it should reverse them. If it started from A to B, it should start maybe from B to A. So we also have row, we have row reverse, we have calc. You are the one who wants to calculate what happens. You have inheriting it from the parent, and also initial, depending on whatever you want. So we'll talk about column and row. So for instance, here it is on row, and if I save it here, you see it remains the same. So this is the first property, and the other property here is the column. For instance, if I just remove this and I write column and then we'll save it, you see it's stacked back towards a column. Now when you stack these two ways, for instance, if you had to add text into it, you see if we take the column reverse, you see it kind of reverses the direction to which it shows all of this content to a different direction. For instance, if we come to our index.html page and then we just want to put something here like, let me just skip space such that I can put h1, for instance, and then I say the last child, and then I want to do the same thing and then on the other guy, and then I say this is the first child. Sorry about that. Control C, you're trying to copy, and then if we come over here and we paste it and we say the first child, for instance, so we say the first child. Then we have this here. Let's just give color white so that you can get to see the color really well. So if we say color over here, sorry about that. So if we say color should be white, for instance, and we save, so we have the first child and the last child. Now working with the display, the flex direction in the display flex, for instance, if we set column reverse, for instance, okay, I want you guys to see what happens. So it reverses. It starts showing from the last child to the first child. But if you just take it as column, for instance, and save, you see what happens. It starts from the first child to the last child. So this is it. Let's try for row so that you guys can see. So if we say row, you see it will start from the first child to the last child, and then if we choose row reverse, for instance, and save, you see it starts from the last child to the first child. So I hope you guys do understand the flex direction property in the flex display. Now the next one we'll talk about now is the justify content. Now justify content is just like where your items should be positioned, and it can be positioned at different angles actually when you use the justify content. Now let's just say when I work on this, I'll have to make the screen, like enlarge the screen such that you guys will see. So if we come over to the parent, so all the flex properties work on the parent, but they are being, that is, the characteristics always work up for the children element. So if you say justify content, there are many justify content properties. If you say justify content, for instance, okay, let's see the first one here. We have baseline, we have center, we have end, we have first baseline, we have flex end, flex start, and flex baseline, and all of this. So there are many of them there. So the first one we want to say is flex start, for instance. So flex start means it should display the properties towards this end. So if you save this, for instance, you won't see anything, but if I enlarge this, you see what happens. It shrinks to the left. And if I kind of come back here to reduce this from flex start to flex end, for instance, if I go to flex end and I save, and then I enlarge this, you see it shifts towards this other way. So that is it. So this is because we started flexing them from the last child to the first child. So if I had to do it back, like removing this column reverse, so that you guys will see, it should just be, sorry, row reverse, and I save it back, you see it goes towards this other way. Yeah, so that is the end, and then this is the start. Okay, so talking about the other justify content properties. We have flex end, we have flex start. We've talked about that. So we have center, like justifying everything to the center. So we can say center, for instance, and we save. Here you will not see because the screen is smaller, but if I enlarge the screen, you see it brings down everything to the center. Now talking about the other justify content property, we have space between, we have space around, and we have space evenly. Now let's demonstrate that. So if I say space between, so we start from space. Okay, let's just start from space around, for instance. So space around means it should like give us maximum property or maximum sizing between each element, so each child element. And what you see here, you see each child element here has space, equal spacing between them. So that is it. So the next one here should be space between, for instance. So using the justify content around, as you guys saw over here, it kind of gives this equal amount of spacing between each child element in the parent class or in the parent element. Now if we come here from space around to something like space evenly, so we use space evenly, what you guys will discover is that it gives equal amount of space, being it from the children elements or the side. So if you measure the spacing between these elements from year to year, here to year, here to year, here to year, you discover that it is the same. So that is it. Come here, take this one out and use the align items property, which could be flex start, flex end, stretch, and other like. So let's start with flex end, for instance, and we save. You see it goes to the end. If you use flex start, for instance, it goes up. And if you use something like center, and save, it goes to the center. So for this one, guys, you can see how the movement is being done, and that is it about this one. And there are other properties that we can check on align items. So because we have align item start, we have end, as I showed you, we have center, we have baseline, and we have stretch. So let's try about stretch. So if you say stretch, for instance, stretched, and we save, you see what happens here. For instance, let's try enlarging this. You won't see the effect. It just helps you so much to like kind of stretch out the element items as it increases. Now let's just stick to start. Okay, flex start, for instance, let it be there. So the next property would flex wrap. So the flex wrap now helps in such a way that when the sizing of the screen is like going smaller, it should kind of like stack itself over each other. For instance, if we say flex wrap property, so we have no wrap, we have wrap reverse. So wrap reverse means it should reverse it the same way we showed for the other guy. So this flex wrap, for instance, let's use wrap because for now it is in no wrap, because when you take no wrap, for instance, nothing happens. Yeah, but if we choose wrap, for instance, to see what happens, like flex wrap, you see what happens, it stacks and it maintains the same size. If you increase this, you see it's this way. For instance, let me show you what is happening here. So as I'm increasing, it's kind of positioning itself when the screen fits to the position where every guy can sit equally to the screen. So as you can see what's happening here, as I'm increasing, they are stacking back towards the other direction, and then that way. So if I kind of change the align items or justify content, let me see, there's something here that is not correct. For instance, let me just remove this and save, and then I see what is happening. All right, so we still have the justify content property, kind of, yeah. So okay, let's check this out now and see what happens. So you see it's aligning now to the left. So depending on how you want it, guys, you can do it. So we have spoken about all these properties here. For instance, justify content center. If you want to justify them to the center, they'll stack at the center. If you want to align items also to the center, they can align to the center, guys. So we have spoke about the display flex and the properties that accompanies the display flex. So we have display flex, flex direction, justify content, align items, flex wrap, and also you can go with align content also. So these are the different properties of which you can use as far as the display properties are concerned. And if you did like this video, do subscribe for more, like this video, comment if you have any worries or you want further explanations. I will do respond to them. Thank you guys for watching. This is Yufkar from Code with Crest, and see you guys in our next tutorial.